What if superpowers weren't about saving the world, but about solving our most pressing everyday problems? A recent study showed we spend an average of 54 minutes per day just commuting. That's 225 hours per year of our lives stuck in transit.
Those numbers really put things in perspective, and it connects directly to how people approach these hypothetical superpower scenarios. They often choose abilities that would solve real-world friction points.
Well, looking at the two main powers we're discussing today, teleportation and omnilingualism, they both address fundamental human limitations that cost us time, money, and opportunities.
The economic impact would be staggering. Studies estimate that language barriers cost global businesses over $2 trillion annually in lost opportunities and miscommunication.
And transportation, Americans spend roughly $9,000 per year on their cars alone. Imagine redirecting all those resources toward other aspects of life: education, healthcare, or family time.
Speaking of healthcare, the implications for emergency response would be revolutionary. The average ambulance response time in urban areas is 7 minutes. In rural areas, it can stretch to 14 minutes or more.
Exactly right. And those minutes can mean the difference between life and death. With teleportation, we could essentially eliminate response time altogether. Organ donation networks would be transformed overnight.
Though I wonder about the psychological impact. How would instant access to anywhere change our perception of distance and time?
Well, research in social psychology suggests that effort and anticipation play crucial roles in how we value experiences. When everything is instant, we might need to find new ways to create meaningful journeys.
The language ability presents its own fascinating implications. Currently, only about 17% of the world's population speaks English. Imagine instantly bridging that gap.
And it's not just about modern languages. Think about the roughly 2,500 languages at risk of extinction. We could preserve entire cultural histories that might otherwise be lost forever.
The diplomatic implications would be enormous too. The UN currently spends about $1 billion annually on translation services alone.
You know what's fascinating? Both these powers essentially address what economists call transaction costs, the friction that makes human cooperation more difficult and expensive.
That's such an interesting way to frame it. We're not talking about traditional superhero abilities. We're talking about powers that optimize human connection and collaboration.
And when you look at global trends, these choices make perfect sense. Remote work has increased by 159% since 2009, and international trade makes up about 60% of global GDP. We're increasingly living in a world where distance and language are our biggest barriers.
The environmental impact would be significant too. Transportation accounts for about 29% of greenhouse gas emissions in the United States.
And think about how these powers could transform education. Instead of reading about the pyramids, students could simply teleport to Egypt. Rather than struggling with language learning apps, they could instantly understand native speakers.
Though I suppose there might be some downsides. What happens to the tourism industry if everyone can just teleport anywhere? What about the joy of gradually mastering a new language?
That's a valid concern, but maybe it would lead to more meaningful forms of tourism, less about checking off destinations, and more about deep cultural engagement. And with language barriers removed, we might focus more on understanding cultural nuances.
The technology sector would certainly need to adapt. The entire GPS industry, translation services, transportation apps, they'd all need to pivot dramatically.
Well, looking at historical patterns, new capabilities often don't eliminate industries, they transform them. When calculators became common, we didn't stop teaching math. We started teaching different kinds of math.
That's an excellent point about adaptation and evolution. These powers might not eliminate the need for human connection and movement. They might just change how we approach them.
And isn't that the most valuable insight from this thought experiment? That even when given fantastic abilities, we tend to choose powers that enhance rather than replace human connection and experience.
That's such a hopeful observation about human nature, that our fantasies often revolve around bringing people closer together rather than setting ourselves apart.
Looking ahead, maybe these aren't just fantasy powers. They're previews of the capabilities we'll develop through technology and human ingenuity. Today's science fiction often becomes tomorrow's reality.